marketers, and there are so many ways that you can market a film. So, but it's a matter of, like really thinking about it. And I think what is really important is finding that audience. I work at the film festival each year, well, as Rena and I, and one of the things that they also employ is niche marketing, much like The Waitress. So if there's a film on, let's say, local foods, then they find stakeholders and they find audiences, groups that they think would be interested in seeing such a film, and those are the people that they try to target so that they can come to see that film. So that's, in this instance, that's what you guys would also, have to do if you wanted to have this shown somewhere else, or, to just find an audience. And I use self-distribution because, for one, the old form of distribution is dying. So a lot of filmmakers no longer go through a distributor because they've found now you're able to make more doing it yourself. And then, so for all of the films that don't go through Hollywood, those are all indies, so they're all produced on their own. And so the big distributors, a lot of times, would not even give them a second look. But because of the internet, all of that has changed, right? So there's the general, the distribution stream initially would have gone from whatever you had, your final product, to the movie theater. And in the instance of bigger films, they would have done like territorial releases. So like in the States, would release in the States first and then release in another territory, then release in a third, fourth, wherever. So by the time the States is looking at it on TV, back in the day, the Caribbean is now getting it in cinemas. But then this has also changed because of piracy, because we're now using a digital medium. And in the US, actually, Hollywood studios, sometimes they release their film in China before they even release it in the US. Because if post-production is being done there, there's a chance that it's out and it's in Trinidad before it's released in the US. So there are many factors that has contributed to now they've been looking more towards having global releases. I mean, it's not there yet because like we still have a different, Netflix here isn't the same as Netflix North America. So that's just the, what that stream used to look like. I don't know if any of you know Better Must Come, Jamaicans, right? So, yes, so this is the poster, and I added the poster also in comparison to all of the other posters that we saw before. So this was the, how many people saw Better Must Come? Only Jamaicans? No? Okay. Okay. So this was the poster for Better Must Come. And then we're going to see the, not sure I put the trailer next. Okay. So Better Must, no, leave it, go back to the, where it was there. To the poster. Sorry. All right, so Better Must Come was done by a filmmaker, Jamaican filmmaker, Storm Salter. It was his first feature. And my reason for choosing this was because I think he's one of the few persons who is able to get a distributor, right, from the Caribbean, which is a huge accomplishment. So the next slide shows actually a New York Times review, which was a bit negative. Mr. Salter pulls off some nifty visual shorthands, as in the opening scenes, prelude to an attack on an election. Sorry, on an election rally, and he doesn't soft pedal the blood, sweat, or tears of these feud. The choice of material becomes a casualty of filmmaking that could have been tighter and cleaner. And this is how film is very subjective, because we have this review, but then the LA Times said it's a tad overstuffed, but never lacks for interest. And Salter, who serves as his own director of photography, has a poet's eye for detail, capturing the beauty of his native country, even in its most extreme poverty. The movie's title, A Message of Hope for the Future, could easily apply to the filmmaker as well. So, generally, everyone will not like your film. What I think was really important to note here was that he was able to get, even though the New York Times review is negative, and let's say this one didn't exist, it would have been a great accomplishment to even have the New York Times review your film. Yeah? And Storm was extremely dedicated to this, and every level. And one of the things that he does well is network. He goes to every party. If he's called for an interview, he goes, and networking is extremely important in the industry. Being where other filmmakers are, that's how you meet people, that's how you meet distributors, that's how you meet people in media, that's how you're able to get your work out. That's how you're able to grow, because then you can get feedback from people who have been in the industry for longer than you have and can give you, valid critique. So this was an interview that was done on IndieWire. And he was asked, how was the process of seeking distribution? And Storm's response, I knew it was difficult, but I also knew that the film was great, which goes back to the first point, my film rules. Because for him, his film was the best film. And if you don't believe that, then you really can't market it. I've had enough people that generally thought it was a great film, not like, okay, nice try, let's see what you got next. And that's the other thing. It's so important to put as much effort into it as possible, because you're as good as your last, you're always as good as your last production. So you're really putting yourself out, but there's understanding also there's always room for growth. Yeah, so each time you have to grow to be better. I went to a lot of distributors and always got positive responses and interest. Also distributors that have shown interest in my next film. But there's this issue of what is black cinema and black film. And that is a problem that we face, because we have no industry. So then when we want to get to be recognized outside of the region, then it kind of goes into a box. And that is, like someone mentioned, Tyler Perry. He does also, and Denzel Washington. So that is a huge challenge when you're coming from the region, because you have to be classified somewhere. It's the same point that Mandisa was making. It's the same challenge that she's had, even when you're submitting material, The next one was...
The documentary had, in my opinion, way too much information in a short period of time, right? Ironically, I am that environmentalism and environmental management is my background, and I was totally disinterested because of not only the too much information, but I guess the tone of the narrator was very mundane and monotone, and it kind of drove me away from the message he was trying to deliver. Also, because I had an environmental background, some of the language was used, I grasped, but based on who the viewer is, if it was the general public, I don't think they would understand some of the language used in a technical sense. And that, in a sense, I think would drive the general viewer away from the cause and the message that you're trying to deliver, which was, I guess, was being concerned about the environment and conservation and all that.
So he's saying here that language is important when you're doing a documentary. Understanding who your audience is and what they know what they don't know, and what can appeal to them. Yeah?
All right, I just want to say, as a scientist, because I am a scientist, and it's a general problem that we have in terms of conveying our information, because we know what we want and we want, but in terms of telling the story, we generally don't think about a story, or we just want to get the information out there. So I think it's a general challenge across the board, internationally, everywhere. And I think we need to make an effort, which is why I am here, to bridge the gap somehow as it relates to collaborating with persons who, I mean, in terms of technically, you could see that there was a home page in terms of the map and how they connected all the different dots in terms of where they were focusing on. There was the different shots, so they zoom in, pan, all this stuff. But I don't know, the music. But I'm just saying, as a scientist, because I am, as I said before, it's a general challenge.
Okay.
I think this was a really good choice to show us. I plan to do a documentary, and definitely it did not engage the audience. I'm not a scientist, but I love nature, and I found myself wanting to be connected to it because it was about the environment. But there was at least 15 people who literally were just like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna lie back. And I could understand why, because the guy who was talking basically had this tone throughout the entire thing. And I guess the core demographic for the video was probably science-related people, but it reminded me, the first thing that came to mind was something that was said in a previous session. Why should I care? And I didn't get that feeling like, why should I care? And the visuals were showing all the positive stuff, but then they're talking about the negative impact, but it was just in this narration. And you're not seeing turtles being killed by people. You're not seeing anything that makes you go, no, I need to join the wildlife service and make a difference. So for me, I took away from it that if you're not careful, you could have wonderful shots and all the information is there, but with the lack of any energy in the narration, and what was the word they used yesterday? I want to say contrast, like they show you
No
only
conflict.
good stuff.
No conflict. Yeah. And those are all really good points, and those are things that people generally forget or overlook when they're doing documentaries. But so we're clear that it wasn't speaking to any of us here, because I tried watching it last night and I was like, I'm going to save this because I love you all and we had a good week. But who do you think it was speaking to then? Was it speaking to anyone, and who was that? Who is the audience? Who do you think is the audience? Huh? Environmentalists?
Good day. I think it was speaking to governments and scientists and
Policymakers.
yes,
Okay.
shareholders and this sort of thing.
That outside of the Caribbean. Yeah. What he said, but outside of the Caribbean. Yeah.
I think it was for the general public, because remember the person ended that we all need to play our part. We should whatever. So it was for everyone, but
And so with that point, because sometimes you think you are making something for everyone, but have you considered what is going to appeal to everyone? So that is another thing. What? What's that? Right. But can the layman get it?
I got it.
Yes.
It was long and drawn out, but I got it.
You got it.
Yeah, I think it was like a film for the average Joe to gain support for the National Forestry, Wildlife Conservation Authority, whoever it is. It's a film to show what they do and to gain support from Joe public.
So
That's
public
what I thought.
awareness
Yeah,
of
more
their
like, more
so
like a recruitment subconsciously to know that these guys are there and they're trying to create that change. They're trying to, they're helping us. So let's help them back. They're helping the person going from 13 at its lowest point to now 150. You know, they have these reserves all around the country. You know, so let's support them. All right? That's why I thought.
so you're saying it was more of a public relations piece
all ages, from the
on their part though, but creating awareness of them. So it was public relations on their part.
This, like I said to you, like a simple film for like recruitment of your subconscious. You know, so like you, as a school children, I can see that's being aired in an elementary classroom, as an elementary school, for high school kids. I can see it to make them know that, and they would know that, well, these people
But
there.
do you
are
think it
helping
would reach
parents.
them?
Pardon?
Do you think it would reach them?
Would it reach them? It wouldn't reach them to the detail, but they would leave there knowing that, well, somebody was helping the parents. That's what I thought, though.
You
That's
agree?
what I thought. Let's do a test. Let's ask a little kid.
It wasn't all bad because, well, the reason I could connect is because it's the Caribbean, and then the footage showed you areas that you could say, yes, you might see this here. But something that he did well, he used the map to show you a visual, that kind of visual you'd ask, where is this, where is that? So from that, you kind of had that connection. But in terms of the narration itself, I was here and there. But what I wanted to ask, to what extent would you use color correction in a documentary? Because I don't think this had a lot. But, and I appreciated that because, you know, in some documentaries you say everything is oh so green. And this one you saw the green, the brown, and, you know, so to what extent would you use those artistic elements to enhance your output?
That also is something that is decided upon, you know, for the most part. So, and also it depends on the topic that you're doing. And something like this, so if you're doing a documentary and, okay, like he was saying, he thinks that it was public relations. So sometimes you find organizations put out documentaries and they want whatever they're doing to look good. So then you will. But if you're trying to show that this is not good or this is not working or it's bad for the environment, it's bad for people, or then you may not want to show that. So it really is something that's decided upon by the team, by the creative team for the most part.
Okay, I got the story. I got what the purpose of the documentary.
Mhm.
Connected because of course he spoke about the Caribbean, and a lot of what he spoke about is synonymous with the Caribbean, the birds, the snakes, whatever. We have, in fact, two of what he mentioned. We have a parrot, which is endangered as well, which has the color of our flag, which is very unique, and we have some snakes. We have a lot of stuff. But what I didn't want to think about is the technical aspect because the animals, the birds, they're not actors. So these shots really, in terms of...
Well, technical in terms of cameras. I mean, there were a lot of overhead.
In terms of filming and all of that, because there were shots that these people may never get in their life again. As in actually seeing the turtles producing the eggs and all of that. These are things that you may never get an opportunity to see. So in terms of getting the right angles, taking the shots and all this, no, from the technical point of view. Or they may have borrowed shots as well. Not shots, but may have borrowed stuff from archives or libraries and stuff. So it's just a matter of putting it together and getting the information. But with regards to the documentary, in terms of the length, is too long. Halfway through, that's where you got the message. The other half, you should just get rid of it.
Yeah, so I'll start with his last point. It's kind of too long for me. I don't know if any of you have seen the BBC thing where they focus on different animals across the world, but the narrator they take on different characters almost. What is the name? It's very engaging. It's documentary style, but it's engaging, right? I sit down and watch it. Every time I see, yeah, that's long. And I sit and I watch it. I say this to say it's how you package the content. And if we're going to go into an elementary school with information, Lord,
have
make
to
it
agree with you.
engaging, make it
Yeah.
engaging. It's an issue. I started studying science, right? And sometimes technical people, policymakers think just doing something is sufficient. Oh, we did a documentary, and so they have something to show that we did. But what is the word I'm looking for? To what end?
Would it have?
Yeah, what impact? What are you changing? Are you leaving a message? Are you making an impact? And I think that's the basic reason behind this competition. It's either Caribbean Science and Agriculture Film and Video Competition. Because I think the need is to move beyond just putting papers together and having conferences and just chatting, but to find engaging ways of presenting content, scientific content, stimulating, which is why a lot of persons are moving away from sciences, because they're not seeing how it relates to their everyday life and how they can relate to it. So we have a great job here to take home what we've learned and are learning to show how we can better package scientific and educational content so that people can become a part of it, man, and feel as if they can own it and want to be a part of the change.
Yes.